Parents, what major mistake cost you your relationship with your kids? I thought I was protecting them. When Delilah was 12 and Kieran was 9, my ex-wife Rhonda started showing up to school events drunk. She'd stumble into parent-teacher conferences reeking of vodka, slurring through conversations about their grades. The other parents would whisper and stare. My kids would shrink into their chairs, mortified. The divorce had been brutal. Rhonda got primary custody because her lawyer was better than mine. I had them every other weekend and Wednesday dinners. It wasn't enough, but I made it work, until the drinking got worse. One night, Kieran called me crying. "Dad, can you pick us up? Mom passed out on the kitchen floor and we can't wake her up." I found them huddled together on the couch, terrified. Rhonda was unconscious, surrounded by empty bottles. I called 911. At the hospital, she screamed at me in front of the kids. "This is your fault. If you hadn't left me, I wouldn't need to drink." Delilah started crying. Kieran just stared at the floor. That's when I made the call that destroyed everything. I hired Mitchell Graves, the most ruthless custody attorney in the state. He specialized in destroying the other parent completely. His fees were astronomical, but I'd mortgage everything if it meant getting my kids away from Rhonda's chaos. "We need to document everything," Mitchell said. "Every missed pickup, every drunken episode, every moment she puts those children at risk." I became a spy in my own children's lives. I installed tracking apps on their phones. I recorded their phone calls when they mentioned mom drinking. I photographed the bruises Delilah got when Rhonda fell down the stairs drunk and knocked into her. I documented the spoiled food in Rhonda's fridge, the unpaid bills, the mornings they showed up to school in yesterday's clothes. "This is what it takes to win," Mitchell assured me. "She'll never see it coming." For 6 months, I built a case against their mother. Every piece of evidence was calculated to paint her as an unfit parent. I told myself I was saving them from a life of chaos and disappointment. The custody hearing was scheduled for a Tuesday in March. The night before, I felt confident. We had everything we needed to take Rhonda down completely. Then Delilah found my files. I'd left my laptop open in my home office. She'd come looking for help with homework and saw folders labeled custody evidence, mom, and recording transcripts. When I got home from work, both kids were sitting on my couch, faces cold as stone. "How long have you been spying on us?" Delilah asked. My stomach dropped. "I wasn't spying. I was protecting you. You recorded our private conversations," Kieran said quietly. "You put tracking software on our phones without telling us." I tried to explain about the custody battle, about getting them away from their mother's drinking, but their faces didn't change. "You used us," Delilah said. "We trusted you, and you turned us into weapons against mom. She needs help," I said desperately. "Can you see that? She's sick." "Then help her get better," Kieran replied. "Don't destroy her to make yourself look good." The next morning, they refused to come to court. I sat in the courtroom alone while Mitchell presented our case to an empty defendant's table. Rhonda had checked herself into rehab the night before, leaving only a note saying she wouldn't fight me anymore. She was giving up custody voluntarily. I should have felt victorious. Instead, I felt hollow. "Where are your children?" Judge Morrison asked. "I'd like to speak with them before making any decisions." They chose not to come today," I stammered. Mitchell kicked me under the table. "Your Honor, the children are naturally upset about the proceedings. My client felt it was best not to subject them to additional trauma." Judge Morrison looked unconvinced. "I'm postponing this hearing for 2 weeks. I want those children present. If they're old enough to have opinions about custody, they're old enough to express them." When I got home, the kids were packing. "Where are you going?" I asked. "Grandma Iris's house," Delilah said without looking at me. "Rhonda's mother lived 2 hours away. We called her this morning. You can't just leave. I'm your father." "You're a stranger who's been spying on us for months," Kieran said. "We don't know you anymore." Grandma Iris arrived an hour later. She'd never liked me, even before the divorce. Now her face held pure disgust. "Those children are scared of you," she said. "What kind of man turns his own kids into informants?" "I was trying to help them," I said weakly. "By traumatizing them? By making them feel like prisoners in both homes?" She loaded their suitcases into her car. "Rhonda may have problems, but at least she never made them feel like enemies." I watched my children drive away without looking back. 2 weeks later, at the rescheduled hearing, Judge Morrison interviewed Delilah and Kieran separately. I wasn't allowed in the room, but Mitchell got a summary afterward. "It's not good," he said. "They're asking to stay with their grandmother until their mother gets out of rehab. They don't want to live with you." "That's impossible," I said. "I did everything right. I documented everything. I proved she's unfit." "You also proved that you're willing to manipulate your own children for a legal advantage," Mitchell replied. The judge isn't impressed. Judge Morrison awarded temporary custody to Grandma Iris. I got supervised visits once a week for 1 hour. A court-appointed social worker named Beverly Tran would sit with us and take notes. The first visit was torture. The kids sat on the opposite end of the couch, answering my questions with one-word responses. When I asked about school, Delilah shrugged. When I mentioned their friends, Kieran stared out the window. "How's therapy going?" Beverly asked them. "Good," Delilah said. "Dr. Holloway is helping us understand trust issues." I felt like I'd been punched. "You're in therapy?" "Grandma thought we should talk to someone about feeling betrayed by people we love," Kieran said quietly. The visits didn't get better. Week after week, I sat across from my children while they grew more distant. They were polite but cold, like I was a stranger they had to tolerate. During our 4th visit, I couldn't take it anymore. "I miss you both so much," I said, my voice breaking. "I know I messed up, but I love you. Can't we start over?" Delilah finally looked at me directly. You recorded me crying about Mom's drinking and used it against her in court. You tracked our every move and lied about it. You taught us that people who say they love you will spy on you." She paused. "How do we trust you again?" I had no answer. Beverly leaned forward. "Trust is built through consistent actions over time. What specific steps are you willing to take to rebuild that trust?" "Anything," I said immediately. "Will you go to therapy yourself?" she asked. "Of course." "Will you take parenting classes focused on healthy boundaries?" "Yes." "Will you write a letter to their mother apologizing for the surveillance and manipulation?" I hesitated. That would mean admitting I was wrong, that my entire legal strategy had been unethical. "I'll think about it," I said. Kieran shook his head sadly. "You're still not getting it, Dad." 2 months later, Rhonda completed her rehabilitation program. She'd been sober for 90 days and was attending daily AA meetings. The court granted her supervised visits, too. The kids' faces lit up when they saw their mother for the first time in months. They hugged her tightly, crying together. I watched through the observation window, feeling like an outsider to my own family. Rhonda looked healthier than she had in years. Her eyes were clear, her hands steady. She listened when they talked, asked thoughtful questions, apologized for the chaos she'd caused. "I know I hurt you both," she said. "I chose alcohol over being your mom, and that was unforgivable. I'm working every day to be better." "We know, Mom," Delilah said. "We can see how hard you're trying." After her visit, I overheard them talking to Beverly. "Mom owned up to her mistakes," Kieran said. "Dad still thinks he was justified." That's when I realized the horrible truth. By trying to destroy Rhonda, I destroyed myself instead. I started seeing Dr. Patricia Brennan, a therapist who specialized in family trauma. During our first session, she asked me to explain what had happened from my children's perspective. "They feel betrayed," I said reluctantly. "Why?" Because I used them to gather evidence against their mother. How do you think that felt for them?" I sat quietly for a long moment. Like they couldn't trust anyone. Like their own father saw them as tools instead of people. "What would you do differently now?" "I'd focus on helping instead of winning," I said. "I'd encourage Rhonda to get treatment instead of trying to destroy her in court." Dr. Brennan nodded. "Recovery means accepting responsibility without excuses. Are you ready to do that?" It took 3 more months of therapy before I was ready to write the letter. Not just to Rhonda, but to my children. "Delilah and Kieran, I need to apologize for turning you into weapons against your mother. I was so focused on winning custody that I forgot you were children who needed both parents to succeed. I violated your privacy, manipulated your trust, and used your pain as evidence in a courtroom. No legal victory would have been worth damaging our relationship this badly. Your mother had problems, but instead of helping her get better, I tried to destroy her completely. I taught you that people who love you will spy on you and betray you. That's not love, that's control. I don't know if you'll ever forgive me, but I'm working every day to become the father you deserved from the beginning. Love, Dad." I sent copies to both kids and to Rhonda. She called me that night. "Thank you," she said simply. "I know that couldn't have been easy to write. It was the hardest thing I've ever done," I admitted, "but they deserved the truth." "They miss you," she said quietly. "They just don't know how to trust you yet." "I don't blame them." Rhonda was quiet for a moment. "Would you be willing to do family therapy together? Not to get back together. I'm seeing someone new in AA, but maybe we can learn to co-parent without destroying each other." The family therapy sessions were brutal. Dr. Brennan made us all sit in the same room and confront the damage we'd done. The kids were angry, at Rhonda for choosing alcohol, at me for choosing revenge, at both of us for putting them in the middle of our war. "You made our house feel like a battlefield," Delilah said during one session. "Every conversation felt like it could be used against someone later." "I felt like a spy in my own family," Kieran added. "I was scared to tell Dad when Mom was struggling because I knew he'd use it in court," Rhonda cried. "I'm so sorry I put you through that. I was drowning and I didn't care who I pulled down with me." "I'm sorry too," I said. "I was so afraid of losing you both that I turned you into evidence instead of just being your dad." Slowly, painfully, we started rebuilding. It took 8 months before the judge agreed to unsupervised visits. I picked the kids up from Grandma Iris's house for our first real weekend together in over a year. We didn't have any grand plans. We ordered pizza and watched movies. I helped Kieran with his science project. Delilah and I went shopping for school clothes. Normal things, parent things. "This feels different," Kieran said as I tucked him into bed Sunday night. "How?" "Like you're actually here with us instead of looking for evidence." I kissed his forehead. "I'm never going to be that person again. I promise." Delilah was harder to reach. She'd been more aware of what was happening during the custody battle, and the betrayal cut deeper. One evening, she found me looking at old photo albums. "Remember when we used to have Sunday pancake breakfasts?" I asked, showing her a picture from 2 years earlier. She sat down next to me. "Before you and Mom started hating each other." "I never hated your mother," I said. "I was just scared she was going to hurt you both, so you hurt us instead." I closed the album. "I thought winning meant getting you away from her problems. I didn't realize I was creating bigger problems." "Mom's doing better now," Delilah said quietly. "She goes to meetings every day. She cries when she talks about how much she messed up. I'm proud of her for getting help." Delilah looked surprised. "Really? Really? I want her to succeed. I want both of you to have the mother you deserve." That was the first real conversation we'd had in months. The custody arrangement eventually settled into shared time. The kids spent weekdays with Rhonda and weekends with me. Major holidays were split. It wasn't perfect, but it worked. Rhonda stayed sober. She rebuilt her relationship with the kids day by day, proving through actions that she was reliable again. She never missed a school event, never forgot a birthday, never broke a promise. I had to work harder to earn back their trust. They watched my every move for months, waiting for me to slip back into surveillance mode. When I respected their privacy, when I asked permission before checking their phones, when I encouraged their relationship with their mother, they slowly began to believe I'd changed. 2 years later, Delilah was 15 and Kieran was 12. They both had friends, played sports, made decent grades. They still saw Dr. Holloway occasionally, but the crisis had passed. On Delilah's birthday, I asked what she wanted most. "For you and Mom to be in the same room without a therapist," she said. "Just once." So we did. Rhonda and I attended her birthday dinner together, along with her boyfriend Jerome and my girlfriend Patricia, not the therapist. We'd met at a coffee shop. It was awkward, but civil. We made small talk, shared memories, celebrated our daughter. Afterward, Delilah hugged me tightly. "Thank you for not making me choose," she whispered. That's when I fully understood what I'd almost lost. Not just custody, but the chance to be their father in any meaningful way. The surveillance had given me information, but it had cost me my children's hearts. Mitchell Graves called me a few months ago. He'd heard through legal circles that Rhonda and I were co-parenting successfully. "You know," he said, "if you'd stayed the course, you could have gotten full custody. She never would have recovered enough to get them back." "That's exactly why I couldn't stay the course," I replied. "My kids needed their mother to get better, not disappear. But you paid me good money to win. I paid you to fight a war. Turns out what I really needed was peace." I hung up and never talked to him again. Last week, Kieran made the honor roll and Delilah got her driver's license. Both achievements happened at Rhonda's house during her week. When they called to tell me, their excitement was genuine. They wanted to share their happiness with both parents. I drove over to celebrate with them. We went out for ice cream, all four of us like a normal family. Not the family I'd once imagined, but a functional one built on honesty instead of strategy. "Remember when you and Mom couldn't even be in the same car?" Kieran asked as we drove home. "That feels like a different lifetime," Rhonda said from the passenger seat. "Because it was," Delilah added from the back. "You're both different people now." She was right. The parents who'd turned their children into weapons were gone. In their place were two imperfect people who'd learned to put their kids' needs above their own egos. Sometimes I think about the alternate timeline where I'd won the custody battle, where Rhonda had disappeared into addiction and prison, where my kids had lived with only one parent, where I'd gotten everything I thought I wanted. In that timeline, I might have had full custody, but I would have lost something far more important: my children's trust, respect, and love. The supervised visits would have ended eventually. The legal paperwork would have granted me possession of their time, but I never would have had their hearts. They would have grown up knowing their father was willing to destroy their mother to get his way. They would have learned that love comes with surveillance, that trust is a weapon to be used against you, that family is just another battlefield. Instead, they learned that people can change, that parents can admit mistakes and do better, that families can break apart and heal, different than before but maybe stronger. My mistake cost me 2 years with my children and nearly cost me their relationship forever. But admitting that mistake, owning it completely, and changing everything about how I operated as their father, that gave me a second chance I didn't deserve. I still have Mitchell's business card in my wallet, not as a memento, but as a reminder. Every time I'm tempted to take shortcuts with my kids' trust, every time I want to manipulate a situation instead of addressing it honestly, I see that card and remember what winning really cost me. The irony isn't lost on me. By trying to protect my children from their mother's chaos, I created a different kind of chaos. By trying to prove I was the better parent, I became the parent they couldn't trust. Recovery meant learning that being a good father isn't about defeating the other parent. It's about showing up consistently, respecting boundaries, telling the truth even when it's uncomfortable, and putting your children's emotional well-being above your own need to win. Mitchell was right about one thing: I did pay him good money, but not to win a custody battle. I paid him to teach me the most expensive lesson of my life, that love without trust is just possession, and possession without respect is just another form of abuse. My children forgave me because I stopped making excuses and started making changes. Their mother got sober because we started focusing on solutions instead of destruction. Our family healed because we finally started fighting for each other instead of against each other. The surveillance equipment is gone. The tracking apps are deleted. The recording devices are in the trash where they belonged from the beginning. In their place, I have something far more valuable. 2 teenagers who call me when they need advice, who include me in their important moments, who trust me with their secrets because they know I won't weaponize them. That's not something you can win in court. It's something you have to earn, day by day, choice by choice, until your children believe that your love is safe. I almost lost everything by trying to win everything. But losing taught me what victory actually looks like. And it looks nothing like a legal document. It looks like your kids wanting you at their birthday dinner, calling you when they make honor roll, and trusting you enough to share their hopes and fears. Some battles are only won by refusing to fight them.